I see us in the Facebook group now. Pros, happy Thursday, Friday Junior. Hope you all had a great Labor Day weekend. Hope this week is going by successfully for you. I'm Chris Weldon. I'm one of the community managers for Housecall Pro. And this is our Pro Power Hours series. This is something we do every Thursday at this time at 2 Pacific, 5 Eastern. You can think of this as a product training webinar that you can come to every week. Every week we take a product or feature and we show you the benefits to using that. Phil gives a great demo, and we answer all of your questions. We've got a library with all of our past sessions available. So if you head to the Help Center and we'll drop the link, you can go back and watch any past sessions. If you're new here, it's a great place to get started, in addition to any onboarding you're getting from Phil or somebody on his team. Like I mentioned, Phil partners with us every week. Grateful for him to be here. Pros, if you're on Facebook, would love to say hello. I've got some people chiming in on Zoom, so good to see everyone. And we're gonna be talking about job and estimate fields today. So, Phil, I'll turn it over to you. We can get started.
Sounds good. Thank you so much. Welcome back, everybody. If this is your first time, welcome, welcome. As Chris said, I'm Phil Spingola. I'm one of the onboarding specialists. So if you've come through the Max or Max Plus plan, you probably talked to myself or somebody on my team. Today, we're going to talk about job and estimate feature fields. As I was looking through some of the questions that we pre-prepared, this seems to be kind of a topic on quite a few people's minds. I think there is some kind of confusion or just people just don't know how useful that these tools can be. So I'm excited to kind of piggyback off of last week. We were talking about reporting. And so some of that you're going to see is carry on over into today. I'm sure everybody remembers the big word last week was tags, and we are definitely going to not stop talking about tags this week. But really just going to kind of talk about how we can limit the amount of tags by utilizing some of these job fields that we do have available. So as usual, we'll just kind of go through a slide deck, just kind of explaining a little bit what it is we're going to be talking about today. This deck is not going to be very long. There's not really a whole lot to job and estimate fields in terms of actually applying them. It's more of kind of understanding and explaining like how this is going to help you out on the back end. So let's go ahead and take a look at some information that we have here. And as I said, just kind of we'll talk a little bit about what these particular fields are, what they're best used for, how we can use these on our jobs, and then kind of going into a little bit. I know this is something that a lot of people have been asking for a long time, is kind of being able to label jobs with specific names and being able to put in specific summaries. So we'll talk a little bit about that because these kind of things can tie hand in hand together. And I'm going to do a little demo so we can see in real time how to apply these particular fields, as well as apply the job description and the summary as well as the name. So first thing is just kind of going over the feature fields. So if anybody has gone to our, I believe it's called the Fall Office Staff Onboarding Kit. That was a session we did a little bit earlier in the year. I would recommend you go to that one if you want to see me kind of explain in depth what each of these options here that is on the slide are talking about. So with our job fields, for that, we have job type, which I'm sure a lot of people, you all have your own kind of names for the specific jobs that you do. So there's that. And then there's also business unit, which, as I've talked to people, I always explain it as thinking of it as your teams. It was built with the idea of bigger companies that have like different business units or different classes of technicians within their company. So people may have an HVAC unit versus a plumbing team versus an electrical team. So that's really what business unit is best used for, and we're gonna kind of see how that goes. There is also a checkbox for callbacks. So one of the questions that was asked before today's meeting was how do we keep track of those callbacks? So there is a particular box that we can check on a job to tell the system that job is now in a callback status, and we can run our reports based on that. Lead source, another one that I know that we have a question pre-prepared about, so I'll kind of go save my whole explanation of lead source for that particular section. But just want to kind of give the short end version here is lead source. It's the best place to mark where the customer either heard about you or where they called in from, so that way you can then pull your reports to see where your marketing money and time is best spent. Customer tags, job tags. If you were here last week, you know I love talking about tags. So with your customer tags, those are tags that help us. I really kind of explain it in two ways. One is it helps us with our reporting purposes. Some pros that I've onboarded, when they put in a new customer into the system for the first time, they will create a customer tag that says new customer. So then at the end of the month, end of the quarter, end of the year, if you want to pull a report based on to say, hey, I want to see all my new customers over the past X amount of days, X amount of months, we can then pull it based on that new customer tag. And once we pull that report, we can remove the tag from that customer because they are no longer considered a new customer. With job tags, oh, I'm sorry. And then the other thing that customer tags are good for is that we see those on every job and we see those on every estimate. So another good use of customer tags, as I explain, is like if we want to use friends and family, military, first responders, veterans, things like that. Because as I said, we'll see those on each and every single job and estimate. So that way for these people, if we want to give them a little bit of a discount, we can. Now, job tags, those are tags that relate specifically to the job. There's also estimate tags, which is kind of the same idea, just tags that relate to this estimate. I always try to find good examples for this, but it's always very nuanced between businesses. So some common ones that I typically see is like going to have to order parts or permits going to be required. Some people do their jobs in phases, so they'll put in phase one when the job's in phase one, and then change the job tag to phase two when they move into phase two. So again, it's best for your reporting purposes. So when you're trying to pull those reports, job tags is really useful when you're trying to single out specific jobs and specific estimates. Now, private notes, those are private notes that can be left out in the field or from the office. The customer doesn't see them. In the past, this is where people typically put in some people would put in their job summary so that we can keep that more internal. But we're going to see is that that's now more of a public facing thing, or we can still keep that internally using private notes. I've also seen private notes be used for some people use them for the job site notes like keys under the mat, don't park in the driveway, gate codes, things like that. Attachments, pretty straightforward. We can upload any files or photos from our computers as well as from our phones using the mobile app. In the mobile app, it actually says photos and attachments. So if we click on it, it will open up the camera on our mobile device so that we can just start shooting pictures and uploading them directly to our estimates and jobs. We did do a session a couple months ago on the new feature of HCP Cam. So if you want to check out that particular session, we do have it in the Help Center. But with HCP Cam, that does allow you to expand the attachments section a little bit more to where you can include actual videos. And you'll also be able to annotate your pictures so you can actually leave notes on the pictures that you leave behind. Again, any questions regarding that, I would recommend checking out that session first. And then at the bottom here, we included the estimate fields, which, as I mentioned, is basically the same idea as those job fields. It's just really anything that relates particularly to the estimate so that we can put in, our business unit or what particular type of estimate that this is going to be. So for the new things that have come out with job name and summary of work, so for that, kind of up in the header section of the job details page, there is a place where you can go ahead and organize the information of the job details. You'll be able, specifically from the web only, being able to give a new job status tag in the upper left. You'll be able to edit the job name, which is available on web and mobile, and the new job summary field beneath the little kebab that can be included on the invoice. This works on web and mobile coming later. So we're going to take a look at that once we go into my account, which is going to be at this time. So let's take a look at some of this stuff in real time. So the first thing that we'll take a look at is we're just going to pull up a job here. And again, just kind of going over the little fields that are over here. So I kind of went down them one by one, but just kind of to show them all in a better, kind of in a live format here. So zoom in a little bit. So for our job fields right there, there's our job type and our business unit. So what I typically see is as I clicked on that, these are some of the ones that I most commonly see. So I've included them in. So when I'm demoing for people just like you all, it kind of makes a little sense here. So with the cleaning companies, there might be, this is a deep clean, this is a regular clean job. This is a diagnostic call. So we're just kind of going out there and taking measurements or taking readings. Most common ones I see are like installs versus repairs. So that's the particular job that we're doing. And as I mentioned, this is going to allow us to pull our reports on the back end based on these particular job types. Business unit, as I said, is really geared towards your teams or your classes or your particular units. So as we see, I do have a plumbing unit and HVAC unit. I did for one example, truck one versus truck two versus truck three. Now, I always say this doesn't assign it to these people, but it allows us to pull those reports so we can see all the work of our electrical team versus all the work of our plumbing team. I was working with a concrete business, and so they had a hard surface team and a soft surface team. So that's why I put those in there so that, again, we can use these to start pulling the reports that we want to pull. Now, on a job, there's the callback button right there. So marking that is going to tell the system that this job is in this callback status. Now, I've talked to a lot of different companies, and it seems like people use callback for different things. So I'm not going to say that there is a correct use of using callback. You can certainly figure that out in your own terminologies. But the way that I perceive the callback as being is, maybe we showed up and we weren't able to get into the location, customer was out of town, or the building was locked up, we weren't able to get in. So we're going to go ahead and mark this as a callback so that we can go ahead and call them and try and get them rescheduled. But again, I'm not going to say that is the absolute blanket reason of the callback button. That's just kind of the way I look at it. And if I was running my business, that's what I would use it for. Now, some people, I did see a question here in regards of best ways to track your callbacks. This is here for a particular reason, and I'll dip a little bit into reporting just so that we can kind of see how this all translates to reporting. But again, we did go over reporting in depth on our last session. So if you kind of want to see more of the nuances of reporting, I recommend checking that out. But I will at least show us how to pull a callback report as well as with our job fields. But getting to my next point about that callback is I always tell people is if you want to be doubly sure about being able to pull reports on callbacks is if you forget to do the checkbox or maybe you don't like the checkbox, if you want to, I say sometimes, just double down on it. So what we could do is we can make the callback be also a job tag so that way we have if we're not able to pull our reporting by the callback checkbox for any particular reason, we still have it as a job tag because tags aren't going anywhere in Housecall Pro. It's too crucial to how you build your reports. So moving on down, just pointing out is just kind of the other things that we talked about. So there is the private notes. You can leave as many private notes as you like. So, gate code 367. Well, that's not really what I said, but that's it right there. So we've gone and applied our private note. That way we're able to see it from the office or from the field, and we can continue to add as many private notes as we want. Attachments, as I mentioned, pretty straightforward. Just clicking on that is going to give us the ability to go into being able to upload any files or photos from our computer, or if we are using our phone, we can go ahead and start shooting pictures out on the job site and uploading them directly to the job. This reoccurrence, we're going to get to that in a little bit. This is particularly here just because this customer is set up for auto invoicing. I know that's not really what we planned on covering today, but I did see somebody had a couple of questions about auto invoicing, so I will touch on that. But just kind of letting everybody know that this is not always here. As I mentioned, this customer is set up for auto invoicing, so this is available right here. But then there is also lead source right there so that we can mark where the customer heard about us or where they called in from, again, to pull those marketing reports. Um, so that's really kind of going over the fields right there. I'm going to go up to the top here and notice up here, this is where that edit button is, and we have job for Mezzi. So I can go up here and go ahead and change what that job name is going to be. So let's maybe say demo for Mezzi's new dogs. All right, so there we go. I'm sure you all have specific or better names for specific jobs, but in this one example, we're going to go say that this particular job is demolishing our old doghouse, and we're going to go ahead and build a new one. So there it is right there. It allows us to see that name. And also right underneath in this section is that summary of work. So we can go ahead and say, done. All right, and so right there, that's kind of our description of work, so that way us in the office were able to see that. When we do click on the invoice, so I just wanted to show is that there is the summary of work there. In the past, I have always told people that the best place for your summary of work has always been in your descriptions. Um, some people don't like that, and that's kind of why we made this summary of work for you available. As I said before, people used to just kind of keep it in the private notes, but we got all of your feedback, and that said you wanted your customer to be able to see it. So that's why it's going to be listed here above your available services. Um, looking at a couple of things. Oh, yep. So that's right there. It's always going to be there. If you ever don't want to display that, as I mentioned before, your other workarounds to kind of keep track of a summary of work without showing it to your customers is going to be within your private notes. Um, and so really with that, that's kind of everything that we had on the slide deck. So I would like to open the floor to any questions. Oh, before I do that, I did mention I would quickly dive into kind of reporting on how some of these fields work. So if we're going to go into reporting, let's go ahead and let's look at a jobs report since that's one that we did. So notice down here you can pull jobs by specific types. So that's where those job tags start to come into play. That's where you can also pull lead source reports, business unit reports, and job types. So if we wanted to go ahead and go by business unit, we have right here, we have the specific unit as truck one. I don't have too many examples of these, but we can keep going through, like if we went through job type, we see an install job here. And just to kind of point out, as if I was going through a monthly report and I kind of wanted to build something from scratch, there is the filter button right here where I can go ahead and I can filter by those specific job tags, those specific customer tags. There's the lead source. There is business unit, job type, and as I mentioned right there, that is where we can see is if we check the box, was this a callback job or not? So as I mentioned at the beginning of our session, these fields are important to your reporting, and it will also free up you from having to create, a million different tags. So um, that I also wanted to touch before I go ahead and open the floor to any questions. Let's see. And so first, okay, so first one. Why can we not see the items inside of associated with estimates when in estimates, but we can if it is an invoice? Um, If you're talking about your line items, Dustin, you can always see your line items on an estimate. Maybe in that example that I had, that was actually just a job. What you would just want to do is probably just make sure that in your estimate settings are set up correctly. So just kind of to show everybody where that would be, it's in your account settings and under estimates, customer view. And as we can see, let's kind of go to the old school method here. Right here, materials as well as services. So when you click on these, notice that I have all my boxes unchecked. You should be able to check on these, and that's where you can include all of your line items, the descriptions, and all of that. So I would check that if that's why to see if that's why you're not seeing those on your estimates. But I know that you can see your line items and descriptions on your estimate just like you could on an invoice. All right. Next, I am unable to run a. That's where we cuss the customer. There's another spot for that, but I'll save that for another session. Um, I am unable to run a materials cost report. So, Jacqueline, is that how much materials are costing you, or that I'm trying to think of like what it is you're looking for. Because when we do look at reporting, I do know that we can pull a job. I'm just kind of getting into just a report. It's not a good report. So like in your edit columns, there is material cost right there, material cost percentage of revenue, labor costs. So I'm trying to see the material costs for a certain time frame. So yes, you can. It's right here. That material cost checkbox. You just got to make sure that on each of your jobs that you are actually putting in your material costs if you want that to be accurate. But we do have a material cost report. You can just go ahead and set up your time range for that. Let's see if we can even pull one for me. So I know that this is just a monthly report, but material costs, like right here. So over the last year to date, I've had $680. We do, however, it always comes up to zero. Okay, Jacqueline, I would say probably you would want to have our support team take a look at this with you because it's probably, I don't know if it's something you all are doing, but um, we can run the report. There must just be something going on with what your team is doing, or it could potentially be a bug. So let us take a look at it. Next one. Does the system track multiple callbacks by employee? Um, as far as I know, the answer would be yes, because if we are going to filter, we can filter by our callback. So we would say yes. I know, again, I don't have too many examples of this, but notice that I can say, yep, this is a callback, and we can filter by employee too. So you can do, Haley, you can do both of those. Um, Ariel, we currently have a tag that is discounted invoice. We want to be able to run a report that shows the total amount discounted within during time frames. I know the tag is not the way to get the number, but is there a way? Um, that's a good question. Unfortunately, I know we don't necessarily have a specific filter for um, discount amount. Just kind of double checking everything here to make sure that is correct. Yeah, I would say there's not. If it's not on that edit columns, yeah, and we can't filter by discount either. So you would have to do it by the tags. That's definitely some great feedback that we can take back for a report that should be or can be included. All right, Dustin, when I'm building the estimate, you cannot see what is inside of the group item. Uh, not see what is inside of the grouped item. Dustin, can you explain on that a little bit more? I'm going to give you a moment to go ahead and do that because I'm just a little confused on that. So I'm going to answer some of these questions that we had pre-made, and then I'll come back to that one. Oh, I see. Okay. 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 So first, I got two back-to-backs here. So Haley, the question is, where does the system track multiple callbacks on a single job? So if that really is just if that box is checked or not, it's not going to say like if it was a callback and then we uncheck the box, we go back out there and then have to check the box again. It's not going to say that it was two callbacks. It's going to just tell the system simply that this job is a callback. So if you want that type of reporting in terms of like how many callbacks have been made on one customer, I would say you would want to either keep track of that within your tags, um, because then you can do tags by like callback two, callback three, callback four. But I understand that that's going to start building a lot of tags within your system. So another way, or you can keep track of that is you could continue to use the box, but then in your private notes, you can say like, this is the second callback, this is the third callback. That would be my suggestion. Um, so then, all right, back to Dustin. Flat rate items such as attic replacement. Example, attic replacement includes. Okay, if it's not in there, Dustin, then it's either your settings or is I would ask, is that in your price book or is your team putting that in the description? Because that's where that information should be. It's in the price book. Okay. Because like just as an example here, if I pull up an estimate, it's only viewable when it is in an invoice once approved in the jobs area. Um, So I'm just going to kind of go through it. So like see here for my AC diagnostic call and we have a description. When I click on it, we can see the description there. And when I go to send this off to the customer, and I have all that enabled, this is going to show up. So, and this is on the estimate. So that's why I would assume that based on what you're saying is if you're saying includes pan, legs, tapes, sealants, and all of that, if that's all in the description and that's in your price book under the flat rate service, it should populate. Then the only reason it wouldn't be is because your description is turned off. So I would say double check on that. And if that's not the case, then maybe you would need a support call with my team so we can take a further look. But as I kind of just went through the steps here, that it should work just like that. And that would be my one assumption is your description is just turned off on your estimate settings. So when you're building estimates, basically see what is included to know. In the materials area, I only show services when I say. Okay, yeah, I would say let's get with my team so we can really talk about this. All right. So some of the questions that were pre-prepared for us today. First one from Eileen. Um, I cannot locate a comprehensive job report that includes job fields for the job. So Eileen, that's one of the things that I kind of pointed to here. And that's kind of why I pointed out to it as I was looking at our big reporting area. So when you're in your jobs, it's these ones right here for type, because that is where your job tags, your lead source, your business unit, and your job types. That's where you can pull those reports. So maybe you're just not seeing this, but or haven't found this, but this is where you would pull those. And I also showed where you can filter by these specific job fields when you are building your own report from scratch. Next question from Scott. Within the job fields section, when in a job, is there a way to add more than one business unit? Yep. So I read through the rest of this, and that's the gist of your question is adding more than one business unit to a specific job. The way the system is currently set up is that we can only set up one business unit at a time. So it's great feedback that we can certainly bring back to the product managers. But based on the rest of what you wrote here, you're going to want to keep doing what you're doing is if you do have multiple business units going out on a particular project, you're going to want to use tags. So next from Daniel. Is there a feature in Housecall to do inspection reports? I usually put my reports in summary of line items on the invoice, but that doesn't work for any customer. It'd be nice to have actual inspection sheets. Um, okay. You did mention a couple of other like little forms, sales slips, inventories, and things like that. So let me just kind of go to a job here. So, as you mentioned, a couple of these other forms in terms of service contracts, sales slips, inventories, what other kind of documentations you have, you're most likely going to want to put that within your attachment section. So that way it goes out with the estimate or goes out with the invoice when you go ahead and send it. Now, inspection sheets are a little bit different. We did create within our checklists areas for you to create inspection sheets in there. I don't know if it's necessarily the same ones that are that you may be doing, but like here's my inspection example checklist. So when we open it, we have pass, flag, and fail, and a place to keep some notes on that. So I always coach my pros is if you do inspection sheets, you can create them as checklists. And once you do your pass, flag, and fails, get all of your notes, you can also include those checklists as attachments when you send off your documents. So that's a way of doing inspection sheets within a Housecall and being able to send those to your customers. Got a question from Action Garage Door Jacksonville. Has anyone figured out a way to attach a checklist to a reoccurring event? For example, they do truck inspection checklists for a weekly tech meeting. So I was testing this just before. I do know that you cannot add checklists to an event. However, if you did, and I understand that this could kind of screw up your reporting a little bit, but you could potentially create this as a recurring job. And if you add a checklist to one job and make it recurring, it's going to include that checklist on all of those recurring jobs. So that would be my workaround. However, as I mentioned, it will screw up your reporting because now you have a bunch of jobs in your system that is technically an event. But at this time, there are no ways to add a checklist to an event. Next one from Zachary. Is there a way to do bulk removal of certain tags? The only thing I see is being able to add a tag in bulk. So for that, I think if I'm getting well, really the answer to it is when we go to our settings, at the very bottom of our settings, there's going to be tags right here. And this is where you can find the list of all the tags that you've created. So if you want to get rid of that tag, you can always just delete the tag. All right, next question from Nick. What is the easiest way to track callbacks, tags, automations? What does the callback section do? I did already cover this, but just really quickly again. So within your reporting section, you can pull up a report and you can filter by those callback checkboxes. And as I mentioned, if you kind of want to double down on your reporting, you can also create it as a job tag. But down at the very bottom, that's the callback box. Or if you want to use the tags are at the top. Next question from Eastside Garage. What do you use for the summary of work section for? I understand it's somewhat self-explanatory, but does anybody use it other than a basic summary? Um, I mean, yep, that's kind of what it's used for, or really you can use it for any way that you see fit. I always tell people is like you can kind of mold the system to use it in ways that you want, even if it's not intended to be used that way. But I know that the job summary, it's been asked for because people don't like putting in the description, their actual summary of work. So we've actually given you a field to go ahead and put that in. So as I mentioned, if you want that visible to your customers, put it in the summary of work. If you want to keep that more private, you'll go ahead and put it in your private notes. Here's one from Anonymous. Does the summary of work stay where each tech can go back and read what the previous tech did? Um, I mean, that's a little bit of a loaded question because technically a tech out in the field wouldn't be able to. Well, no, they could still look at the job history. Yeah, so I guess it's not as loaded as I thought it would be. Yeah, you can still pull up the customer profile and you can look at the customer history. If the job summary is there, they should be able to see it. Um, so yeah, that would be my answer to that. Is there a way to include next one from commercial tech? Is there a way to include the property profile on a customer's invoice? At this time, the answer is no. My best workaround and suggestion for this is that you can snap a screenshot of the property profile section, add it as an attachment, and then include it with your documents. Next one from Scott. How do you add the description of a job where you can see it from the schedule without having to click on the job to view the private notes? All right. So yep, I get this question all the time. So just to kind of pull up the schedule here. So right there, demo for Messi's new doghouse. So when we click on that one, see that's pulling from the job name right up here. So you could put that in as a particular job name, and that way we can see that from the schedule without having to go further in. I believe we had, wasn't there one job we were doing here? That's the home cleaning service. Visit number one. So another option, what I've typically told people to do in the past is that you can put it in as your first line item, because that's typically one of the first things that pulls up. I know for this one, we didn't necessarily have a line item, so it pulled from our name. And I want to check because I remember we used to be able to pull it by description too. So job name, description. So let's actually go into this one. And this was visit one. We did put in derf. All right. And this was September 1st. Okay. So it's still only showing visit one, even though I have it turned on. So that could potentially be a bug that is going on right now. But I've always known, because we even see here within our schedule settings that you can have it within your description. But looks like that now we're pulling job name, and if also, as I said, it's usually always pulling from your first line item. So those would be my main suggestions: using job name, making it your first line item name, or you can put it in your description, but it looks like we're not seeing the descriptions at this current time. So those are my suggestions, Scott. Next question is for Chris. Is there any way to transfer pics around? Like we forgot to copy them to a new option from an estimate. So um, I'm not necessarily understanding the scenario, but really once you start taking pictures, and we actually had a meeting today going over some of the improvements and updates that are coming out. Essentially, we're kind of, and this is how I was explaining it to the rest of my team, is I think we're moving towards where almost our customers are going to have their own files, so that all of their pictures are stored in there, all of their notes are stored in there, so that they're all in one place. That's kind of been one of the uh, pain points that I've noticed from a lot of people coming through here, is having to go back to the profile to get specific attachments, having to go back to a job to get the specific notes on that particular job. So I know we are moving forward. One of the ones that is coming out is when you click on an attachment, you'll be able to grab any of the pictures that are associated to the customer. So telling you, big changes are coming for the better. Just stay tuned. But as far as I know, moving at least at this time, you can always re-add attachments at any time from any job to any from any past job to any future job as well. Next question from Jean Paul. Is there a way to automatically attach files to every estimate, building licenses, proofs of insurance with every estimate? So the answer is no. With attaching files, um, again, it's hard for the system to decide like that this is a particular job, so this particular attachment needs to go out with this particular job. I don't think we're there yet. Well, I know we're not there yet, but so currently at this time, the answer is no. Anonymous, whenever I get a new customer, I always enter lead source. However, there's also lead source input on jobs and estimates that you've already done for the customers. Okay, I get this all the time too. So I'm going to explain the method to the madness here. The reason that it's like that is when you put in a customer for the first time, and what they're talking about is, if we go to a customer and we put them in, we can put in a specific lead source. However, when we then create a job, that lead source field is going to be blank on the job. Now, the reason that is because we want to keep track of when we put in the customer for the first time. Maybe they called us in from Facebook. Well, then maybe on the second job, they grabbed the number off of the billboard that we put up. And so they're saying, hey, I saw your billboard out on the highway. That way we can say this particular job, they called in from the number on the billboard, so that way we can again see where our marketing time and money is best spent. Because if we just say, okay, they called in from Facebook, that means every job that they did came from Facebook. That's not right. So that is the method to the madness. All right, next question from Sarah. Auto invoicing. Is there a way to auto invoice from a specific time period? For instance, a customer has a bill from 2003, but has bills in 2025. When they do auto invoicing, it is showing the bill from 2023. So, Sarah, that is by design. The auto invoicing takes into account all open invoices. So the answer to your question is there is no way to set up a time frame of when the auto invoicing is going into effect. It is always going to target all of the open invoices. All right, last one from the anonymous. We are new to HCP and have an invoicing question. We have a customer that we clean 3 times a week and would like to auto invoice 1 time weekly on Monday for the previous week. What is the best way of setting up this invoicing? So for that, it would be auto invoicing. And for that, you would just pull up a customer profile. And on their profile, that is where you can set up auto invoicing. And from here, that is where you can set up your frequency. So for you, you said that you do, 3 cleanings a week and you want them to pay on Monday. We can go ahead and say, make this invoicing weekly, repeat every week. And as you said, if you want them to pay on Monday, we can go ahead and set up Monday. That means every Monday, they will go ahead and get a summary of all of their outstanding invoices, which they can then pay off. All right. I saw a couple more questions come on in here, so let's take a look. From Wendy, is the reoccurrence tab so the invoice will resend periodically, for example, a monthly fee that they pay for with a service? So the reoccurrence tab, when it comes to jobs, that's really just reoccurring jobs. Um, that's not that a single invoice will be sent periodically. You're actually setting up specific jobs. So I find it best used for cleaning companies, like the anonymous example asked, like we do a deep clean of Phil's apartment and we do it 3 times a week. So instead of um, having to manually just continue to put in a new job every 3 days, they can go ahead and say, we're going to set up a recurrence because it's going to be the same job 3 days a week. And that's typically how it's used for. So each visit comes with its own invoice. I think what you might be, for example, if you want a monthly fee to pay for a service, you could use the auto invoicing, which I just kind of explained, or you can go into thinking about utilizing service agreements or service plans if you can. Dustin, I know if you write an entire report in here, it refuses to send over to QBT. You can break it into multiple. So I'm assuming you're talking about QuickBooks. That I can't really speak on. That's not really my world. QuickBooks isn't really my area of expertise, but for at least in Housecall, all I know is that you can build these reports. You can certainly share them and you can export them to send them to people. But as far as I know, I don't know of any reports that go from Housecall over to QuickBooks. And if you need a little bit more clarity on what is available within QuickBooks, I would recommend either going back to the session that we did on QuickBooks, or you can reach out to either the community team or our technical support with the blue chat bubble and ask to speak with somebody from the QuickBooks team. Haley, did you say that the description column under jobs is dependent on the first line item in your service section still and not in the job summary? Yes, that's what I said. It's going to be that first line item and it's going to be the first description. As I mentioned, we didn't see that today. I think there's just probably a little bug going on, but that is typically what I have seen in the past. So I've always told people first line item name or first line item description. But now with the introduction of job summary and job title, you can also do that within your invoice settings that I showed. Is there a way to retroactively change total labor cost to previous jobs when the labor cost was changed in the system? Uh, I mean, yes. Anything that has been done in the system, you can always go back and make changes. I have not seen any limitations on that in almost any facet of the system. So, um, that's got a lot of feedback today. So really engaging stuff here. You all got a lot of questions for me on something so small within the system, but good to have them. And I hope I answered everybody's questions.
Yeah, thank you so much, Phil. Really appreciate it. Y'all, I'm dropping the help article to all of our recordings as well. Getting that right now. Yeah, thank you for handling all those questions. No help at all. Um, yeah, pros. All of our past sessions are available there. Just drop the link. Also dropped it on Facebook. Hope to see you back next Thursday. Lauren and I are fleshing out the topics, the next few topics for the next month. So those will be posted to the help article along with today's recording within the next day or two. So stay tuned. And then if you're not already signed up for office hours, I mention it every week, but it's a great almost extension, but an opportunity to talk with other pros and network. And of course, Lauren and myself and Matthew Smith are all available during office hours to help you. So I encourage you to come by. It's every Friday at 11 Pacific time. I can get you the link. I'll see you tomorrow, Mauricio. Yep. And then if you're a new pro, if you're new, you're onboarding, you're within your first 30, maybe 60 days, next Friday, we are running a webinar for our onboarding pros. Talk to you a little bit about the community. Our super pro, Franklin Hooglander, is going to join, talk a little bit about his experience as a pro using Housecall. It's a great opportunity to kind of ask startup questions and hear back from a real pro, not just Housecall Pro staff. So all those opportunities are available to you. If you need anything, find me in the Facebook group or shoot me an email, and we'll see everybody back next week.
Sounds good. See y'all then.
Thanks, Bill.
All
Bye.
right, bye.